Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to a mentor session with Gerry Morton. Really excited to be connecting with you guys today. You guys are an awesome group, and I really enjoy and appreciate the time I get to spend with you guys as a mentor. Grateful for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed all the connections that I've built with each of you guys individually, and the opportunity to be of service and to help and to bring some of my experience and some of my wisdom from a lot of years. I've been in this business for 20 years, and I was in other businesses for 10 years before that. So I've been at this for a while, and it's really good to be able to give a little bit back and connect with you guys. So I'm going to give you a couple of my favorite reminders from a nutrition, health, energy standpoint. Make sure you drink plenty of water, at least half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Make sure you get plenty of good quality protein, ideally a protein shake with Greenergy and green superfood every morning. Make sure that you're turning your muscles to a catabolic, from a catabolic to an anabolic state, so that you're building rather than burning that muscle tissue. And then make sure that you make time for yourself to exercise or have some quality time every day. Ideally, an hour a day set aside for yourself for exercise, cardio, weights, ideally another 10 minutes, 15 minutes on top of that for meditation and mental health as well. If you can try to journal a little bit, a gratitude journal has tons of research on how that impacts your happiness. Journaling generally, if your life's worth living, it's worth recording, and trying to keep a journal for yourself can be incredibly helpful. It's just a couple things to think about as you start your day. I also like to talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting, trying to limit your sugars and limit your feeding window to a certain hour per day, maybe 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating per day is something that you can try. Eating all your meals between noon and 8 p.m. or 2 and 8 p.m. can be really helpful as well. There's an app that will help you kind of guide through that. It's called Zero, which I've enjoyed using a bit, Zero. I'll bring it up again in response to a question that I'm going to answer later on in the session. So let's go ahead and get into some of the questions today. We've got some really good ones, and I want to try to bring my experience to these and answer them as best I can. The first one, I've been selling on Amazon for a few months now. I want to know what you find the most effective sales funnels are for Amazon listings. Also, have you found a way to measure the effectiveness of sales funnels on Amazon? Because I can't find a tool within Seller Central to do that. I own 2 e-commerce brands. Brand I'm selling in Amazon is direct-to-consumer skincare products. So there's a lot of great tools on Seller Central for Amazon. You can really delve into that stuff and spend a lot of time. I have some resources with Amazon that we use. We've got 7-figure sales that we do on Amazon as well with our brands. And one is their SaaS core team, which you can pay. It's $2,500 a month, and you get a dedicated rep, and they help to work through a lot of those data sources with us and help us to make sense of them. Also help us to escalate cases and do a number of things. I know that's a competitive program. They don't allow everybody into it. There was a little bit of a waiting list, but it's a good program. If anything, just to be able to escalate your cases and be able to get some visibility within Amazon for stuff. The other piece is we have a dedicated advertising rep. So they're constantly looking at our advertising spend, making recommendations, submitting that we can then work through to accept and try stuff. Typically their recommendations want us to spend a lot more money and with a lower ACOS, average cost of sale. So invariably when we accept their recommendations, we have to watch it really closely so that we can quickly dial that back if it starts to get too expensive. But those are two resources that are helpful. The standard Seller Central tools are very useful too. We tend to manage to our average cost of sale, and we'll allow that number to drift upward for a period of time as we're testing new campaigns or new ideas, and then we'll ultimately try to drift that back down so that we're trying to level that out in the 20% range, less than 25% on the ACOS side. But it's definitely a process, and there are a number of tools. There's Helium 10 that you can jump on and use to augment the Seller Central listings. You give them your Seller Central login, and you can use that tool to look at what other people are doing in the space and then help you to grow your penetration, find keywords, find ways that you can be more targeted. And it also helps to provide another interface on reporting, inventory, and other elements to augment what you're doing with Seller Central, which is helpful too. So I hope that helps. I'd love to give you just a silver bullet on this, but Seller Central is a beast, as is Helium 10, Amazon in general. There is just so much data, and making sense of that data and making it actionable, and then taking the right sorts of actions is a job in itself that, again, if you don't have somebody on staff doing it, there's some great contractors that can watch that all the time for you and help you out, but you should definitely have somebody watching that for you all the time, particularly if you've got multiple products in the consumer skincare space, which is really competitive. All right, thank you. Next one, how can I create a bigger sense of urgency around making money? This is a really good question. This person's been an entrepreneur for 10 plus years, always made just enough, never really had a strong desire to make more than just enough. Yes, I want to make more, have more, be more, but there are obviously some serious hurdles. What mindset shifts do you recommend to go from being not money motivated to I can do, have, be more with more income? What are different ways to look at the issue that could be motivating, exciting to me as opposed to just make more money? Are there different objectives you've experienced that are just as rewarding as having a big bank account that motivates and inspires you? So I go right away to a couple of key points on this question. One, it's a great question. I think it's something we all wrestle with. When you look at work-life integration, we all sort of think about, when that integration gets out of balance to us, should we or are we making the right decisions with regard to investing time within work as opposed to other things in our life? And I think the biggest piece about this is the why, right? I think we've all read Simon Sinek's Start With Why book. If you haven't, go read it. It's a great book. There's a 20-minute TED Talk that you can Google and watch that as well, if you want the net. But if you have a big enough why, there's a saying that you can accomplish any how, right? And what I'm hearing in your question is that your why isn't really big enough, or it's not focused enough on meaning. So one thing that I would invite you to do would be to look at the value that you're providing in your business and take just a quick step back from it and look at that in bigger terms, something that's a little bit more inspiring. How are you making a difference in the world, in your customers' lives? What's the impact that you can make? So rather than framing it around just money for yourself, which is not super motivating for anyone, I don't think, because money is just a tool to be able to do other things. It's not an end in itself. A pile of money is worthless. It's what that money can do for us with regard to freedom, time, impact, making a difference for ourselves and our loved ones, being able to do what we want, right? So focusing on money is never going to inspire us. But if we look at the difference we can make with our business, in our employees' lives, in our customers' lives, in the marketplace, the the things that our business offers that other people can't get elsewhere, or in a way that they can't get, that can be more inspiring. If you look at a mission as a company and try to be a mission-driven organization, you look at some of the biggest companies out there, right? Like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, they all have really big missions. Like Facebook's mission to connect the world, right? They could just say, that they're trying to make money or sell more advertising, but that doesn't inspire people. But connecting the world does. You can argue whether or not they're doing that effectively or in a way that benefits society or not, but that's certainly a mission that is laudable. And I would encourage you to try to bring your mission somewhere in that direction where it's a little bit more laudable and impactful. I know your business is small. On the SMB side, it's not like Facebook, so your mission isn't going to be necessarily to change the world, but you can certainly change your community, you can change your vertical, you can change the area in which you operate, and you can make a real difference. Maybe you want to find 5 radically positive success stories, 5 people whose lives you've really impacted with your product or service, right? Work on that. Try to focus on metrics outside of just money or just going to work or just revenue, and look at other things that you can track, which I think can make you more inspired as well. So another way to think about it, another way to look at it, I think also going back to the gratitude journal is really important. Thinking about what you're grateful for that you've already accomplished, looking ahead in the future and blue skying about things that you could potentially accomplish if you were able to really focus on your business. I think all these things can help you to kind of recapture that fire, that inspiration that I feel like you've started to see wane a little bit after 10 plus years of making just enough and kind of getting by. Sometimes another thing that helps is to hire somebody, even if you can't really afford it. Just to bring on another employee can often help you to find deeper reservoirs of energy or a fresh perspective within yourself. So now you have another employee, you now need to fill this person's bucket and give them things to do and think about how to make them productive. And by doing that, you then make yourself more productive as well. So that's another way to approach things to kind of help. So I've often seen that work in a number of people that I've worked with. If they get stuck, just go hire somebody and then focus on that, and that alone can help to kind of get you through that sort of stuck piece. Also reread Start With Why and watch the TED Talk and sort of rethink your business from that standpoint a little bit as well. Next question. How do I evaluate new opportunities and side businesses? I have a stable core business with a great team, sold 8 figures on Amazon, congratulations, last year through the FBA program, have trained our operations and admin team so we can step away. So the core businesses you're looking at are consulting with other Amazon sellers, creating courses to help with process efficiency, brand management, helping people getting up and running on Amazon, managing their presence on the platform, doing private label on Amazon, etc. So how do I decide how to act on first? So great question. There's a couple things that you want to look at on this. What you've got is a stable core product business on Amazon, which is really efficient. It's all FBA. It seems like you've got it running really smoothly on 8 figures. The side businesses that you're looking at starting are service side businesses, education oriented, that are very labor intensive, and they're going to rely a lot more on you. So first off, you have to think about the shift, right? You've got things dialed in on the product side pretty tightly. You're looking at going to a service model where you're helping other people to do that as well. So first you need to think about, do you find that fulfilling? Is that something that you have time to do, to build a team and to tackle that? And if so, if your mission is really to kind of help other people to be successful on that platform, well, then that's great. I think that's a great first look on that, to make sure that you're really doing something that you're going to be excited about doing, because there is a lot of competition in that space for helping people to be successful on Amazon. So you got to really want to do that. And then I think the next piece is to look at what you've been successful at. What was it that helped you to get to 8 figures, which very few people do on the Amazon platform as a percentage basis. So you've done some stuff really well there. What was it that helped you to get there? Was it purely the marketing? Was it a product fit? Was it product sourcing? Was it your utilization of data? Was it the advertising on the platform? Was it a pricing strategy? Was it really supplier sourcing, being able to have cost advantages? I mean, there's a lot of things that need to go right in order to sell over $10 million on that platform. And you figured out, something there. So I would try to zero in on what really worked for you, and then maybe from that, focus on helping people to do that better. That could be good. Another angle, which again you can kind of see from the direction of my initial questions, would be to potentially just double down on your product side and just keep launching new products. Because if what you're doing is so successful, and you're up to 8 figures now, if you can just launch more products, which give you that initial grace period on Amazon, you could just continue to scale this thing up to 9 figures and try to get to $100 million, which would be absolutely incredible. And if you could do that on the product side, leveraging the efficiencies that you currently have, it's going to dwarf whatever you could possibly make selling courses or other educational materials to help other people to be successful on the platform. Lot to unpack with that question, but you can do private label, as you said, if you've got a really good model. But there's some challenges there as well. I gave you a lot to think about, but hopefully that's helpful. Next question. What are some ideas I could use to create a subscription revenue business? Thank you in advance. I have a new consulting business focused on HR strategies, process involvement, HR software implementation, organizational change management. I also provide coaching services. Would like to get some advice on a subscription revenue business for HR. So I think this is a great business. I had an HR person who I used for years who was absolutely fantastic. Introduced her to all my friends. She had a subscription business, and I paid that subscription happily every month. All my friends that I introduced her to paid it happily every month, and it worked great for her. And I think there's a real hole in the marketplace for this business. What she did is she would just charge me a monthly fee, and she would just be on call to answer any HR issues. When I wanted to fire an employee, she would prepare everything and get it to me and help to manage that process if necessary. Anytime I hired somebody, I went through her, and she prepared all the documents and got it all ready for me. Anytime I had questions about compliance or other issues, I would ask her, and she would help me. She was fantastic, and it was really useful, and it also took a lot of not just time off, but mental weight and mind share off by handing that off to her, because I would know that it was being done well, and she was great at it. My wife is a corporate attorney, and she ends up doing a lot of this for clients that she has, because much of the employee stuff is very legal in nature. So as kind of a general contractor, HR, like a general counsel, freelance for companies, she'll help them a lot with their employment stuff, to make sure that, again, when you hire somebody or fire somebody, it's done appropriately, and helping to manage issues and make sure that if there's an issue with an employee, that it's documented and that it's appropriate from a legal standpoint. So there's certainly a place for the legal side, but my wife is a lot more expensive relative to just a pure HR person who, again, on a subscription basis, you could have on a daily basis to answer regular calls and handle most things, and then just bring in somebody like an attorney to handle things if it gets contentious or if other things bubble up. So I love the business. I think it is a great subscription revenue business. I think the challenge in your question is transitioning people from fee for service to subscription. And I think the important piece there is to message that value and create some level of scarcity that, look, I'm only working on a subscription basis so that I can make sure that I only work with a certain number of clients so that I'm always available for them to take their calls and be responsive to them at any given point in time. Because I've learned from my experience that if I just go on fee for service, I get caught up on projects and then I don't have time to answer things as they come up for important clients. So I want to just limit my number of clients, and I want to just have a focus on this group of clients and be available for them. So I think you can do that if you message it appropriately, and I think it's a great direction for your business. So I hope that helps. What's an acceptable time frame for royalty payments to be paid to someone when acquiring a business? So in this example, they're starting a concession business. Talk to somebody who's going to exit. They're just buying the name, logos, graphics, contracts, not any equipment or physical location. So obviously the seller in this situation wants to be paid in perpetuity. I think you rightly noted that doesn't make a lot of sense, and you want to limit it to a certain time frame. I think the less the time frame, the better. In many cases, they might want a bigger percentage for a shorter time period. I mean, I think you start with a year as an option. They're going to say no. They're going to want to get paid forever. I think 5 years would probably be the absolute max that I could imagine. I don't think you want to do anything in perpetuity, but I think somewhere between 1 year as your opening salvo and 5 years as a potential max that they could even ask for, I think would be the number. And you probably settle at around 3 years, which is a common number for most earnouts in businesses generally. So if you're going to buy a business and do a seller's note, it might be 3 years. If you're going to do an earnout, it might be 3 years, but it's usually 1 to 3 years. So I think that's, and it kind of coincides with 3 times earnings that a lot of businesses sell for in the SMB space. So I would try to drive it that way. Offer to pay them for a year, let them come back and kind of settle something in between. Hope that is helpful. Next question. What are your thoughts on a very structured and strict health program? As I'm coughing here. Just getting over something myself. Had COVID just last month for the second time, and then just got over that, and then my immune system was compromised, and I got sick with a cold right after that I am just getting over. So real excited you did the AO wellness program, and you gave yourself a lot of flexibility. The results didn't happen as quickly. How much flexibility do you recommend for reward meals, etc.? I appreciate. Okay, so here's where we go back to what I opened up with the Zero app on Google or on Apple. I think the Zero app is helpful to limit that flexibility. So there are 3 things that you can do to move the needle on body fat and overall lean mass. You can do time restricted feeding, where you just limit your amount of meals, the time that you eat, to a certain window every day, say 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. You can do calorie restriction, where you just restrict, all your calories from the day, which I do not recommend. And you can do dietary restriction. Dietary restriction is, say, limiting sugars, limiting or eliminating refined carbohydrates, eating more protein, more good fat. So that's a dietary restriction. Calorie restriction is just limiting all calories completely. And then there's time restriction. So the great thing about time restriction, even if you end up eating a lot of calories during your window, what it does is it eliminates all the mindless eating throughout the day. And also at night, when you sort of decide, say 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, you're done eating for the night, or you're done drinking, or you're done whatever, you just hit that button and you're finished. You just have water for the rest of the evening. It allows you to ensure that you're fully hydrated, gives you a couple hours before you go to bed, so you'll sleep better, your resting heart rate will be lower when you sleep, you'll be more recovered in the morning. It'll give you a lot of benefits from that standpoint. But it ends that sort of, okay, like I decided I was done at 8 o'clock, now 9 o'clock rolls around, I'm going to have another glass of wine, or I'm going to have this snack, or I'm going to have something else. Just sort of eliminates that. Also during the day, it then eliminates sort of that mindless eating where you're not really hungry, you're just eating stuff because it's there, or because you are bored, or you just sort of want something to do. You also find that when you're not eating as much time-wise, you have a lot more time, and you can then start focusing on spending that time doing other things, exercising, reading, working, doing other things. So I find that time-restricted feeding window seems to help from a lot of different standpoints. It also helps build what's called metabolic flexibility. So one of the things that you try to do by limiting your eating window is to get yourself during that fasting window to be burning primarily fat as fuel rather than stored muscle glycogen, blood sugar, and carbohydrates. And by doing that, it trains your body to burn fat for fuel more frequently. And then when you go back to eating carbohydrates during your feeding window, you'll burn carbohydrates, or when you exercise hard, you'll burn your stored muscle glycogen, but then your body will flex back to burning fat as fuel. When fat takes a long time to burn, it's a process. That's why we'll lose if we start, dieting, or we change our approach. We might lose 10 pounds right away, which is mostly water weight and bloat. And then we'll quickly level off, and then it becomes a longer slog of, a couple of pounds a week, because fat just takes longer to burn off. Well, the way we can accelerate that is by continuing to exercise, and exercise really on an empty stomach, so that we're burning more fat. We don't want to consume a lot of carbohydrates before we work out, because then we're going to burn those carbohydrates. We want to just increase our fat burning when we're exercising, and by doing some of this time-restricted feeding where we burn fat during a longer window, like 16 hours a day, and then ultimately at the end, maybe get into ketosis, where we start really burning fat and using the ketone bodies to fuel our brain. I'm giving you a lot here, but one of the things I just encourage you to try is try that Zero app, and then from a dietary restriction standpoint, look at cutting out sugars and refined carbohydrates, certainly fruit juices to the degree possible. Anything with pure sugar in it, just try to eliminate to the degree that you can. Eat more protein, lean protein, eat more good fat, and eat a lot of vegetables. And if you do those things, you're going to see some significant results, and you'll see them quickly in the first month. So those are some thoughts for you. I could do a whole clinic just on this, but I wanted to just give you some quick things to think about with regard to that, because it's an excellent question. Next one. Should I rent a brick and mortar office space? Really great question. I'm a nurse practitioner with a health and wellness practice, primarily offering concierge home health services right now. should I have a brick and mortar, or should I just continue to go to people's location? Because obviously you're taking on the additional cost. You could sublet to other professionals, but does it make a lot of sense? So I'm going to answer that a couple of ways. I have found, and I think it depends on your home situation. A lot of people have kids in the house, a spouse, and it can be really helpful for their personal productivity to get out of the house and go to a physical place where they can work. It's very difficult sometimes to get work done when you're bombarded by different things in your house that are urgent but not important and require your attention. If you can go someplace else where you can sit down and focus and have some dedicated time, it can boost your own productivity. There's certainly a higher level of professionalism in allowing clients to visit you at your office rather than coming to your home. It's nice to go to their home, but it is certainly more professional for them to come to your office. You can have a lot of things available in your office that are easier to have in one location, reference materials, maybe potentially testing mechanisms, different resources, products that you could sell, a number of different things that you could have available in your office that might be difficult to transport en masse to a client location or somebody's house. So I think your idea about subletting to other professionals could also be a benefit for your business as well. If those are complementary professionals, you could have some cross-marketing benefits where some of the other people that you bring in or sublet that space to, you could make it a point to make sure that only subtenants that you bring in are people whose clients could potentially use your services. So then when they come in to visit them, they could potentially look to see you as well, and you could then cross-refer over to them too. So you can see the direction I'm going. I think if you want to expand your business and you want to grow, at some point I think it will make sense to bite the bullet and take the additional expense of getting that physical location in that office going and build from that standpoint. I've downtown Manhattan Beach, and it's just absolutely gorgeous here. It's a great spot, and it's a great spot, and I like it a lot. And it's great being here. But you've got to do what you've got to do. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been really great connecting with you guys. I have super enjoyed the time. And again, grateful for the opportunity to be able to connect and to be able to share some of my experiences with you guys. And I look forward to the next time. Take care.